I hope that uglies up his house. I really do.
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah. Well, in recent months, the Persian Gulf crisis has drawn attention to America's reliance on foreign oil. But this isn't the first time we have faced this situation.
You know, it was about 15 years ago a gas shortage sent us searching for alternatives. News Watch 8's Frank Fraboni explores those energy options in this week's special assignment series. Frank?
Marissa, back in the 70s, Americans were real conscious about finding alternatives. But the search didn't last, and now we're back in the same boat. Oil prices are up and alternatives are in. First, a look at the latest in fuels for the future. Bill Richardson believes he has the power. You see, this Clearwater machine shop worker comes from a family of inventors.
My grandfather came out with the idea of taking two trucks, putting them together, and making what they call a trailer truck. And his good friend put the body on top of it. His friend's name was Fruhoff, and now everybody knows the name Fruhoff.
When Bill's not working on making repairs to machine tools, he's spending his free time on experiments. Experiments that have helped him produce a fuel that he says could someday replace gasoline.
I think it has a very strong approach to the answer because it eliminates the need of importing any product. It totally recycles itself.
Using ordinary water, carbon rods, and an arc welder, Bill has created a hydrogen-based fuel.
These are just holding up the funnel, and this here is another piece of carbon rod inside the water. And what we're going to use the funnel for, the funnel is going to collect the gas that is underneath the water. So now we turn the power on. We're going to place our arc underwater and going to strike it. And we're now producing bubbles of gas which are bouncing all over the place and knocking our little funnel around. That's the gas that's forming directly from the arc, and it's forming directly underwater, coming up into the funnel and being captured by the funnel. When it reaches the surface of the funnel, it mixes with the outside air and forms a burning mixture.
Bill is now using that mixture to power engines.
I started compressing it into tanks, using it to run small torches. I started with a small lawnmower engine, ran that, and then the larger four-cylinder engine is where we are now. If I put this into a mass production with normal industrial standards, we could beat the price at the pump very easily.
Bill says his fuel also burns cleaner than gasoline, releasing only carbon dioxide instead of poisonous carbon monoxide. Despite his discovery, Bill is now struggling to find interest or financial support for his project.
I think that it has a very strong possibility. But then again, we're talking about a country that's not too interested in doing things. They have their cheap oil, and they figure, well, cheap oil is the way to go.
But some people have already found oil alternatives. Keith Grutzmacher powers his car with natural compressed gas.
Natural gas has seen a new advantage these days, one for environmental reasons, and the other reason is for the price.
Keith works for People's Gas, where mechanics have converted almost all of the company's 600 fleet vehicles to either natural or LP gas.
It's a much better designed fuel. For normal cold weather starting and things of this sort, it's just a smoother fuel.
Natural or LP gas sells anywhere from 50 cents to $1 cheaper than gasoline. Finding a filling station can be a problem.
You know, there's certain niche markets that it fits into, and that's fleet markets where they usually have a fleet of vehicles that return to their same base every day.
People's Gas is now working on developing natural and LP gas filling stations. But until then, it's an alternative still out of grasp. Now, in some states like Colorado, natural and LP gas filling stations are already up and running. Some automakers are also producing limited quantities of vehicles that run on those types of fuels for states like California, where there's a big pollution problem.
How does burning natural or LP gas help our pollution problem?
Well, when these fuels are burned, they release smaller amounts of the carbon monoxide, which is the poisonous part of the emissions which come from cars. And tomorrow we're going to talk about some other fuels that are being produced from things like candy, if you can believe that. And they're also cleaner and more effective ways, at least I think so, to get fuel.
And you know, a lot of these things are not new. I've done some of these same stories 10, 15 years ago.
That's right. They're just getting a new birth.
And they need to have some investment put in them, and we need to take them seriously.
Well, that's the problem, the lack of investment and the support.
All right. Thank you, Frank.
Thanks, Frank.
Well, Chris Thomas joins us now with a look ahead.
They'll hear you.
Good, good. I'm glad to see you today, Joe. We've got our latest adapter for the new Aqua fuel system.
Well, I'm happy to hear that, Bill.
Good, good. I'm glad. What we've done now is we've put our Aqua fuel in high-pressure bottles. These are normal scuba tanks. They're capable of holding 80 cubic feet at 3,000 psi. They have brass valves. I mean, actually, one person asked me if they were steel valves. They were afraid that there'd be a spark if the two steel valves opened. These valves are actually brass, so there's no danger of explosion, Joe. And from here, we use the regulator that's normal for the Aqua fuel system or the scuba tank to reduce the pressure down to 100 psi, and it goes into a standard air control regulator. Now, in this system, Joe, we've added the Garrison, what they call a demand fuel regulator system.
This is a regulator over here.
Yes, this is a combination of a pressure regulator as well as a demand diaphragm. Now, what the purpose of this device is to use a gaseous fuel like natural gas or any other type of gaseous fuel to run a standard engine. And you see that this hose goes up underneath the air cleaner, and there's a little adapter device between the air cleaner and the top of the regular carburetor. This is all standard carburetor equipment, standard linkage and governor control. Now, the only thing that's added is this Garrison unit, which is designed to put the gaseous fuel into the engine and run the engine. Normally in a gas tank, we would have a liquid fuel, and the carburetor would turn the liquid fuel into the atomized fuel that would run the engine.
So right now, there is no gas.
So there's no gasoline in this tank. We're not running any type of gasoline. We get this tank open here. You can see down in there. There might be some smell, but there is no gasoline in the tank. Okay, nothing in there.
Nothing in it.
Okay, I'll put the cap back on.
All right.
That way there won't be any air going in there. And then a few minutes after we run the engine, I'll take the adapter off and show you how it looks. So let's go ahead and run the engine. And what we're going to do is show that the engine running on this gaseous adapter with the Aqua fuel will pull every one of these light bulbs. Each one of these is a 100-watt light bulbs. The AC generator at the end of this unit is a 2.2 kilowatt AC generator. So in other words, that's 2,200 watts. So there's 11 light bulbs on each board. That's 2,200 watts, and that should be the maximum amount of power needed by this little engine to put out the electricity. So we'll start it if you're ready, Joe.
Okay, Bill, I'm ready.
Okay.
Is there anything I can do to help?
Well, do you pray? No. There we go. Joe.
There's no smell to this exhaust. There's no effects of me breathing this exhaust.
And all the windows are closed, the door is closed, and all three of us are still alive. Now we can run in a few more minutes if you don't believe us.
The other person is my wife sitting in the corner. She's dead.
But none of us are over 20 years old. Maybe there's an effect that we don't know about.
Let me see if we're all still here.